Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for an Eldritch Death Knight in Baldur's Gate 3. This is a multi-class of the Death Domain Cleric with the Eldritch Knight Fighter, and they actually go together decently well. I would recommend, if you're starting the game, to go with the Death Domain Cleric because they can use their Reaper ability to apply cantrips to 2 targets. It's actually pretty great damage considering we now have access to the Totally Dead cantrip. However, if we're starting this later on in the game, it's better to start with the fighter because this gives you Constitution saving throw proficiency and heavy armor, which you don't get if you start with the cleric. So I will start with the fighter because we're going to do this at a higher level. I would actually recommend going with the defense because we are a split caster and melee attacker, so it's probably better for us to have boosted armor class. You could go with the great weapon fighting or the dueling if you prefer, but I think it's best to go this route. Now, this is a multi-attribute dependent build. Strength, dexterity, and intelligence can all be taken over by gear, so that's something we don't have to worry about. I would recommend this stat spread can actually work well since we don't need intelligence other than if you wanted to cast spells from the Eldritch Knight, which I wouldn't recommend it fully. It's probably better to do this if you're not going to use any gear that changes your stats. However, there's gear for Constitution, there's gear for dexterity, there's gear for strength, and there's gear for intelligence, so we got all of our bases covered. I personally think if you're going to use a strength potion, this will be the best. You can also put those constitution points if you're going to use the constitution amulet. I think this, or swap with the dex gloves, or the constitution amulet, or the intelligence circlet. Use one of those and dump that stat. Now, level 2 gives us the very powerful action surge. This is just great overall. Level 3, we get to take our subclass. We're going to go with the Eldritch Knight because this gives us a very big boost to our damage early game with Booming Blade. Huge. And we can also then take Mage Hand. With Mage Hand, you can use this to throw healing potions or water bottles to set up double cold lightning damage. I also like Minor Illusion. I wouldn't recommend really using any other cantrips though. It's not going to be the main point of our damage. And for our spells we'll be taking, I would recommend having Shield and Magic Missile. At least Magic Missile will be guaranteed damage. And for the expanded spell list, I like Find Familiar for the Raven, although you could go False Light for the extra health. Getting a free Raven is really nice because it can set up blind, which is really good because you get advantage on attack rolls against that target. Level 4, we could go with either the Chromatic Orb or Thunderwave. Thunderwave's great because the pushback can end up knocking enemies off the ledge, taking them out. For the feat, there's a couple because we got a lot of stats that could be spread out. I also think the alert feat works really well here because with alert, you get to go first pretty much always in combat, which is never a bad thing. I think the best feat to go with at the start is actually that feat there. Level 5 gives us our extra attack. This is really great because that's just a big boost to our damage. Now, we're going to actually add in the Death Domain Cleric at this point. For the cantrips, I would recommend using this one, your special Death Domain one, as the Bone Shield cantrip. Stops target from receiving healing. And then we can go with the Toll the Dead, Guidance, and Sacred Flame. In addition to this, we get to prepare some spells, and I would recommend having Create Water. Also, Command is nice. Healing Word, and then you can go with Inflict Wounds or Bless or Guiding Bolt, depending on what you prefer. I think that Inflict Wounds is kind of nice because this, at least if you want to cast a spell, you can do additional damage with our level 2 Touch of Death Channel Divinity. This allows us to do additional necrotic damage on the enemy. It's great. It only works on melee attacks, so if we're attacking or using a spell like the Inflict Wounds there. Sanctuary is not a bad one to have as well. Kind of fits into this theming. Cleric Protector. Level 3, we go with another choice in spell. I'd recommend having Hold Person since we weren't able to get it from the fighter there. And then you can also add in the Spiritual Weapon if you wanted to, because with Spiritual Weapon, you can actually use a Maul. I'd actually recommend it over Inflict Wounds, which I don't think is that amazing on this build. But you can use the Maul Spiritual Weapon to apply disadvantage with the Dazed condition, so they'll have disadvantage on Wisdom saves, so you can hit Command, Hold Person, a lot easier. The next level spell we grab, Bursting Sinew is nice, or you could go with Produce Flame to give yourself a light source. And then I guess for the next level spell, we'll go with the Aid spell. And for the next feed, you could go with a boost to your Wisdom. However, we could go with the Savage Attacker since we are a bit of a melee attacker. This can allow us to reroll our damage die. You could also go with the option of taking the Warcaster, giving you advantage to hold concentrations, and you get a reaction Shocking Grasp that you can utilize. Now, another actually interesting choice is if we wanted to take the Battlemaster, I don't fully recommend it, but taking the Martial Adept gives you 1 superior die for a riposte, doing a reaction extra damage. I like it, but it doesn't really fit here that well. We could, again, just go with a boost to either Dexterity, Wisdom, or Constitution, depending on where your stats are spread out. I personally do like the Savage Attacker feat, though, for the extra damage. But you could, I guess another alternative is the Sentinel feat. For a Death Knight, I think Sentinel actually fits well here because it gives you a reaction, a weaponized reaction. Now, once we hit level 5, this is when everything all comes together because we get our Spirit Guardians We also get a little spell casting from the Eldritch Knight, so we can upcast it. And we also got things like Glyph of Warding, which is great if you're a half-elf because you can throw it at your feet and put everyone to sleep. So that's great. And then for our final level, we get the ability to ignore resistances to necrotic damage, which is kind of nice. We don't have a whole lot other than just the extra damage that we got from our Touch of the Death Channel Divinity. And then we'll take the Mass Healing Word there for bonus action, extra damage, or extra healing, which is nice. Now, you could go and take Blight, or you could take the Feat here. It's your choice. This one will give us a level 4 spell slot. I guess this one will too, but this gives us a little bit more health, 1 health point more. Whereas with this, we can prepare level 4 spells. Depends if you want the Feat more, or if you want to take Blight, which at least gives you a damage option that's a little bit higher in damage. And then arrange your spells as such. Now, as far as gear options go, this is where things get interesting because we can actually take this many different ways. It specializes in melee attacking. However, we can also take advantage of some other things. So personally, I really like, once you get to Act 3, the Steel Watcher helmet or the Eversight ring in Act 2. Getting darkness and the ability to see in it's really nice. Despite us not having Shadow Blade for the extra damage, just being able to utilize darkness is great. If you go evil with Shadowheart, you can also get a spear that will give you the ability to see in darkness. We also have the Cloak Protection or Deathstalker Mantle. And best heavy armor is the Armor Persistence. If you go evil, you don't get this. So otherwise, you'd go with the Helldusk armor. You could use the Reaper's Embrace as well, which reduces all incoming damage. Even like the option of taking your Dwarven Splint Mail for the additional Constitution or Armor of Agility, because it's just really easy for anybody to get. And you can add your Dexterity modifier, which ends up giving you roughly the same armor class there. Now we have the Helldusk Gloves because this makes sense. It gives you bonus to spell save DC and fire damage on our attacks. I also have the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, so you can teleport around, although you could boots. You could get your armor class up a lot higher if you wanted to. Now I have the Sword of Chaos, which is cool, is that additional necrotic damage now ignores resistances, so it's huge. You get 1 to 6 health points back on every melee attack. What you can actually do is use the Periaptive Wound Closure, and this will actually give you the maximum health points whenever you heal yourself, which is crazy. So that can be really nice too. If you don't want to use a two-handed weapon, Act 1, the Knife of the Undermountain King is great. You could even use like the Mark of Heshker Staff if you wanted to spellcast a little bit more, or Nyrulna if you wanted to go a little bit into the throwing route, because we do have the weapon bond. So you could even use the Returning Pike or any type of thrown weapon. And what's actually kind of funny is the Shard Spear of the Evening actually works pretty well here, because this, again, gives you the ability to see in darkness, and then you can throw it. But yeah, depends on how you want to build around that. You also can take the Shadow Cloak Ring to be able to set up extra damage if you're in darkness, which is nice. Or we can go with the Ring of Free Action and not get slowed down because we have Spirit Guardians that we don't want to have impacted. And the Killer Sweeter for the free crit, never a bad idea. And even, I guess, the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel is a really great option here too, because with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, you get a free, or a bonus action ability to cast like your hold person or commands, which is great because we are a melee attacker hybrid. Then we also have the Hellrider Lombo for the +3 to our initiative. You can also use Fowler Louvre in the early game. For helmets, you got the Haste Helmet that you could also use. Best available medium or heavy armor that give you the highest armor class. And then for gloves early game, what's kind of cool is the Gloves of the Flagrant Skies can give us reverberation on the enemy, which is quite nice to have. Or as I mentioned, the Gloves of Dexterity, because you can dump your dex that way. And this is another Act 1 item. And for our first turn in combat now, we got our Spirit Guardians up, and I'm using the Necrotic one because it ignores resistances. Obviously, radiant damage can be nice if you want to use the Radiating Orb gear, but what we're going to do is we're going to run around trying to apply this to as many as we can. I guess we'll go with the Booming Blade against this target here, and we'll roll that free crit. We had a 3700 attack roll. That is great. So I'll then move. Oh, we hit them with the Spirit Guardians too. Perfect. So that means we can then go with a melee attack against this one. And what's nice is if we didn't take them out, we can then use the Circle of Death to add a +5 necrotic +1 2d12 using our Channel Divinity for a free. Yeah, that took them out. That's exactly what we wanted. So that's great. I can go ahead and attack this target here, but we have 2 actions and a bonus action spell that we can cast. I'm actually just going to use the Booming Blade against this target here. Obviously, that's really nice, and we don't use the Touch of Death there. We were able to take them out in one foul swoop. And then we can then run up over here. And again, Spirit Guardian's doing its thing. We can do a normal attack on this target here, taking them out. Don't need to use our Channel Divinity, because we only have 2 of them, so we want to save them as much as we can. And then we can run up over here. That was enough to take them out. Perfect. If you had an Elixir of Bloodlust, this would be great, because you would have an additional action here. And then we can use the Spirit Guardians against them. And what's even crazier is that you got Action Surge, and we got bonus action spells that we can cast. So this is actually kind of strong, despite not really looking at first glance. And then you can Booming Blade here against this target. Yeah, that's kind of nuts. And you're healing yourself every time you do all this, by the way. Then we also get a hold person, but we have Spirit Guardians up, so we actually don't want to break that. We got command approach. So if we see 3 targets, we can go ahead with 3 of them, 70% chance, 30, and 65. Not ideal, but we managed to land 2 of the 3, so that was pretty good. Not a bad first turn of combat. Basically taking out all the competition, and then having, I could have used the Raven there to blind one of these targets. I like command approach because it makes them run into our Spirit Guardians, which is just great. Psionic Dominance, if you got the Illithid ability, can be a big savior. Since we don't have Counterspell on this build, I'd recommend at least having one character with Counterspell, because that's just super useful. And then on our turn here, I guess the best choice would be to, we already got one target with our Spirit Guardians there. We can't move any closer, unfortunately, but we actually do have some burst damage. Like, we got Blight here, which is kind of cool. But what we can also do is a little silly combination. So we'll go with a Create Water here. Boom, set up water on multiple enemies. And then we have Glyph of Warding. And we can do a cold or a lightning one, which will get double damage because they have water set up. And it creates a nice surface. So boom, that was enough to take out 2 of them. And then we have 1 left over. This doesn't trigger our Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, so I don't get that bonus action spell. But we do have a bonus action to heal a teammate, heal ourselves. Or we can pull in a spiritual weapon, which cannot slip on ice. And then with the Maul, you can use it to set up Daze. So that wasn't too bad of a turn. He's going to probably... Oh, he saved on the ice. Nice. Using your spell save DC, which is not... Ours isn't super amazing, but this is still a pretty decent turn because we were able to crowd control a lot. And it's our turn again, so always try to Spirit Guardians. Boom. Broke our concentration running into that there, but it was enough to take out the enemies. So, yeah, you see that there. The Death Domain Cleric actually is nice with a fighter because that extra... channel divinity damage is so good. It can be the difference between taking out an enemy or not. It's extra necrotic that you ignore resistance to, and our sword deals a little bit of unresisted necrotic damage as well. So all in all, this is a pretty fun and powerful build. If you have any questions regarding it, feel free to leave those in the comments. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the next one.